Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Indy Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Tallman, and with me once again today is our Director of Resident Relations, Kelsay Bolden. And with our brokerage, subbing in for Rosie today is Paul Linn. Welcome to the show, you two.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, so I brought you guys on here today. We've been doing this now for several quarters in a row, I think, to talk about quarter one and your opinions and maybe some real data on how that quarter went from the leasing side and also from the brokerage side, the sales market. So first quarter's over. We're well into April now. How'd the quarter just feel to you all? Fast, slow, about the same? I'm just curious of your opinions. Everyone has opinions on how these things go. Kelsay, what do you think about the first quarter?
Yeah, I think for us, it was a little slower than we anticipated, but the leasing season, especially in quarter one, is heavily influenced by the weather. Unfortunately, It was just cold here. So we did see, typically we get that uptick in January. We didn't quite see that this year. So it felt a little slow, but overall things are picking up now, which is definitely good. But yeah, quarter one was a little different.
Yeah, it was a little different. Paul, what's your perspective?
Yeah, on the buy side, sell side, I felt like quarter one was very active. It seemed like there were a lot of people on the sidelines waiting, especially last year, and the market or the rates dropped a little bit. I don't know if you remember back in February, and it seemed very busy to me, especially when we did get all the snow. Yes, things slowed down a little bit, but on the buy side, my investors were heavy. We were able to buy properties because there wasn't a lot of competition. So I felt like the first quarter, in my opinion, was very, very, very busy. And so I'm hoping that it just continues to go this way, but that's how I felt the first quarter.
Yeah, I think that's true. I didn't really think about it that way because you guys both have different stories, but I think they're very accurate. And Paul, I think for the reasons you just mentioned on the brokerage side is hanging out on the sidelines forever, waiting for interest rates to drop. We got that drop. A new year turned over, and I think it did get busier. You could just feel the market, especially on the buying and selling side, shift. And leasing was different, though. So if you had to put a headline, Paul, let's just stay with you. What is your headline for quarter one, I guess, having said all that?
Yeah, so really I kind of came up with that the market is active, but it's very selective. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of activity going on. I know we just had a conversation off air about seeing all the pending listings that we noticed.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's properties that people are begging you to buy because they just can't get them sold. And a lot of it comes down to the price and condition. But yeah, if it's a good property, those things are going pretty quickly. So it's active, but selective.
Kelsay, what's your headline?
I actually thought a lot about this, like 3 different ones. But I decided to quote Bob Dylan, and my headline is "The times they are a-changin'." That's how I feel right now.
That's a good quote.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I actually came up with one myself, and I put, and this is more on the leasing side of things, which we talk about a lot in this company, and that is frozen due to uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right. I think that is what people in the rental market are feeling now. And I think I'll spend just a minute or two explaining how I look at that. And that is, we're in a very weird time right now in our world. I don't think it's just an Indianapolis market. I think the war going on, the economy is strange. Like the stock market has all of a sudden become so resilient, but yet we're seeing inflationary. There's all kinds of signals out there that are confusing for people. And the housing market generally, and I say very much the leasing, the rental market, feels a little stuck. And I think, Brooke in our marketing group, she is going to be doing a blog soon. And one of I think the title is going to be basically, and she didn't make this up, but 60% of renters plan to keep renting no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. So think about that for a minute, as the listeners here so that likely means there's going to be more than 60% of people who are not going to move. And that's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you have a rental property and it's rented, you can feel more confident now than ever that your resident is likely going to renew. They may not, but there's a better chance today than I think I've ever seen in my 25 years of being a landlord now. But if you have a vacancy, then that's not great news for you. And I think that's what some of our market is saying. I think markets across the country are saying is that there has just been a reduction in the number of people that are moving and want a rental property. That's just the reality of where we are right now. So that creates some great stability. Look at my own portfolio and the portfolio Scott and I own. We have a lot of renewals going on in our portfolio, but we also have had some vacancies in our portfolio for longer than we're used to seeing. And I think that's just the reality of where we are. So, all right, Kelsay, so let's get into some nitty gritty here. What are you seeing with rents? Are they steady? Are they going up? Just what do you see? What's the data telling you?
Yeah, right now, I would say that they're pretty steady compared to 2025. So if you're a client who leased a home 2 years ago and now your resident is moving out and it's going to remarket, you might see a little bit of a dip in that price from 2 years ago. But we've been actually saying this for, I feel like, over a year now. Rent prices have stabilized. So you're not going to get those huge increases that you were seeing previously, but there's not a huge decrease compared to last year. So when you go to market, we're not going to recommend getting top dollar because we want to reduce vacancy for you. Of course, we're not going to lowball it either, but
right.
Rent prices have remained very, very steady and in some cases lower than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, Paul, on the sales side, what are you seeing as far as median sale prices go?
So in Marion County, Indianapolis, right now in March, I'm seeing it at around 250,000. I think it was a little bit lower in the earlier January, February, like 240, 245. But right now, March is about 250, which is down a little bit from last year, but that's been pretty stable at that price.
Yeah, I didn't realize this. I just I'm looking at the March 2026 market review, and the median sales price is exactly $250,000.
Yeah,
and that's strange. Like it couldn't have been $250,001. It's literally exactly $250,000.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just compared to March of 25, Kelsay, to echo your point, it's down 1.6%, right? From year over year, that median sales price. It is up 1% from February.
Right.
But overall, we've seen some dips. And again, just to reiterate what you said, Paul, this is Marion County single family properties, which is
correct.
The bulk of what people that come into our system want. And so that's why we like to report it that way. If you look at the broader central Indiana market, those numbers change. But for Indianapolis, that's what it looks like. So, Kelsay, let's talk about days on market. What are we seeing days on market wise in terms of leasing rentals go?
Yeah, so days on market, as far as the trend goes, we're seeing similar trends compared to the years before. Days on market is a little bit higher right now, which we were kind of prepared for. The rest of the market is also very high as well. Now we are seeing that number reduce drastically, like even from February to March, those numbers changed by about half. So That's really good to see. But yeah, our averages and the market averages is a little bit higher than what we're used to seeing during this time of year. But again, it wasn't anything that we hadn't anticipated with the data that we've seen over the last 12 months.
Yeah, and I think it's important maybe to pause here and talk about how we and how everyone else records days on market. That is when you lease a home, when it's lease assigned and you say this home is leased, it is the time that it took to lease it from when it went on the market to when it was actually leased, not move in, not going vacant. Days on market is literally the time it was on the market until it actually an executed lease happened. So what happens, and you're right, we see this every year where we lease older inventory in that first quarter. And so naturally days on market, even though the market might be really good, the days on market might not look great for a given month because you're leasing older inventory. And we've talked about this a lot recently at our company, is days on market follows a very nice curve. It's I'm not an economist, but it starts high, dips in the middle of the year, and then starts rising back up. So it's a nice flipped bell-shaped curve. I don't know if that's probably totally wrong, and people are probably wondering what I'm
Like
talking
drawing
about. But
that out.
yeah, exactly. But we see a dip. It goes higher and then dips and then comes back up. Paul, how about you? Days on market for Indianapolis?
Yeah, so in March, the average days on market was around 18 days. Again, same thing, single family home, Marion County. Now this is down a little bit or up a little bit from last year. So last year I
Yeah.
think it was around like 13 days on market. So yeah, it is again slowing down. And then the average list price to sale price was about 97.9%, so about 98%. Again, I think last year it was a little bit higher, like 98 point something. But at the end of the day, that's still pretty strong. If you're able to get about 98% of your list price and within 18 days, that's a pretty strong market, I think.
I would totally agree. And that's, because you hear again, national housing numbers coming out. And maybe if you get into the data, because here's a number, I'll just talk about how maybe statistics can look like, Paul. So I see, if I look at days on market year over year, they're up 41.7%,
Wow. Yeah.
but they're only 17,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it is a little, so if you wrote that headline, days on market in Indianapolis are up 41.7% year over year. People are going to be like, God, that market's not good. But it's like where you talk about going from 13 to 17 or whatever that math is.
Right.
17 is still a really good number for days on market. I mean, let's,
Yeah.
for all things considered,
We-
we've seen better, we've seen lower for sure.
Yeah.
But still, if you can sell your house in 2.5 weeks approximately, I don't
Yeah.
think people are going to be too upset about that. I would hope not.
No, and I can tell you in the last 2 to 3 weeks, so this is mid-April when we're filming this, so last couple of weeks, beginning of April, every house that I've wrote an offer for has had multiple offers.
Yeah.
Even for
So
investments and regular home buyers, whatever it is, if it's a good property, one property, it was a flip that we were trying to get, and I texted the agent within like 8 hours of it going on the market. I said, "Hey, do you have any offers?" She goes, 15. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
gosh.
Wow.
So again, the good ones are going quick.
Yeah. Kelsay, what's leasing out there right now?
we talk about this a lot, but we're heavily influenced by the school season. And we've seen a lot of the suburban single family just lease up so quickly. So like, I'll use my area, for example. So like Franklin Township, Greenwood, like when those hit the market, I've seen those lease days on market is very low. I feel like we're seeing a little bit of a struggle with, like duplexes or multifamily right now. But yeah, the suburban single family is very, very strong, which again, we see this right before the start of summer. We see that uptick in applications for those types of homes because people want to move, during spring break, during the summer, and then get settled before school starts again in that July, August timeframe.
Yeah. I went back to Scott and my portfolio, and we're talking about single families, right? And we have a lot of doors, not crazy amount, but a few dozen doors, and we had 4 vacancies, and they were all inside of quads. No single family vacancies, not even any duplex vacancies.
Wow.
They were all inside of quads. So that kind of tells you where people are focusing in on. Not that you can't rent duplexes. I mean, again, all of our duplexes were occupied. Those quads, though, and these were, two of them especially were in amazing shape, like beautiful properties. And it's just harder to rent those right now. I think that's where you're seeing single family being the dominant attraction for renters looking to move. So, Paul, what's selling? You talked about this a little bit, but what are you saying that is getting a lot of good traction right now?
Yeah, it kind of mirrors what you guys are talking about. So like a lot of the investors I'm working with, they're looking for kind of that just easy to maintain property or low maintenance rentals is what I call them. Your typical 3-bed, 2-bath ranch in like a suburban neighborhood, 1,500 square feet or so, between 200 to 250, somewhere in that price range. Those things rent pretty quickly. And, you're seeing pretty solid rents, anywhere from 16 up to 18, 1900, depending on the property. But those are the ones that I'm seeing that you can buy it pretty quickly, you can get it rehabbed pretty quickly, and it can rent pretty quickly. So I think those are the ones I would be looking at if I was looking to buy in Indianapolis.
Yeah. So let's talk about, Kelsay, I want you to get into some specifics here. If you if someone is looking, they have someone provided notice, okay, and they know they're going to go on the market. What should they expect, right? I mean, think about maybe the next, let's say 30 to 90 days, depending on turnover requirements and things like that. But what should people expect? I mean, I'm just curious. If I have I'll put a scenario, and I don't hope you're not too unprepared. I didn't talk about this beforehand, but if I've got a 3-2 ranch in Pike Township, okay, northwest side of Indianapolis, and I was getting $1,600 a month in rent for the last 2 years, my resident vacates May 1st or end of April. And say it's a 2-week, 30-day prep time, and I go on the market in June. What am I going to see? I mean, curious, like what's your gut feel in terms of price and days on market for me?
Well, I mean, Pike Township's a great leasing area. So,
okay.
If you were getting $1,600 for rent, I will probably suggest a little bit of a bump. Of course, we're going to pull comps for you and make sure that we're priced with the market. But if your home is going to market right now, we're suggesting just a little bit higher because we are moving into that busier leasing season, and that usually justifies an increase. So I would say a home like that was $1,600. We're probably going to recommend $1,700 depending on comps and what the rest of the market is looking like. Now, I say that because Pike Township's a great area. So we're definitely going to give you a bump there. I think that right now for all of our clients, if you have a home coming to market, which we do have a lot right now, we actually did that to ourselves a bit. We're doing staggering lease end dates for our clients. It's something that we implemented because we want your home to go to market at a more opportune time. So right now is actually the perfect time. You're probably going to see lower days on market and then a little bit of a bump in price. But we should still expect patience. It's been very up and down. It's not anything that we weren't expecting, but things can still take time. But I'll give an example of a single family that we leased, again, kind of that suburban area, went to market, and I think at least within 7 days. We were priced right. It was in the area that we're talking about, and it's the most opportune time right now for the home to go to market. So you can definitely see those lower days on market too.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any doubt that you can lease a home very quickly if it's priced right, if it looks good. Because it's not like there's no demand out there. There is demand. Let's be, we lease homes every day. We've had actually, I think, a very good week.
Yeah.
At least, several homes this week already. It's just, I do think, and I think everyone in our industry and everyone that's a landlord would agree that there's just fewer people moving. And there's data behind that. We're going to get into a little bit more about that shortly. Paul, if I'm putting a home on the market for sale right now, similar story, like what would I expect?
Well, yeah. So I tell people, everybody wants the top dollar if you're trying to sell your house, which is possible, but you also have to come out with your best foot forward. Just because days on market are, 18 and places are selling with multiple offers doesn't mean your house will get that as well. So you got to still come out with your best foot forward. Now that it's April, clean up your landscaping, clean up your yard, make your place look good, make it feel warm and inviting. Don't forget to clean your place. I can't tell you how many houses I walk in and it's like, did they know we were coming today? It's just like, what's going on here? So, and buyers are the same way. They walk in, they feel the same thing, they'll leave. And so if your property starts sitting and it hits over that 20, 30 days on market, you're going to be doing price drop after price drop. Just come out with your best foot forward. Price it right the first time. Maybe price it slightly below where you want to be, and you should be able to, get your property sold pretty quickly.
Yeah. Closing question for each of you. Let's talk about renewals, Kelsay. We've talked about renewals quite a bit over the last couple of years. They've been amazing for reasons we talked about earlier in this podcast. But what are we seeing? Give us some data on our current renewal rate.
Yeah, so renewals are very strong. We've seen strong renewal rates over the last few years, which I think kind of echoes your point that you were saying earlier, is renters just want to stay put. Right now, our conversion rate is 60%, which is astronomical. Last month we renewed 62 leases. That's a huge number. I think that the metric that you're supposed to look at, I think a good renewal ratio is like 40%. And I mean, we've just consistently beat that month after month for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on, honestly, I think, and I don't have any, maybe I should even talk about this. I think renewal rates across the country look very different. I do. I think if you talk to a property manager in Colorado, their renewal rates may look totally different than a property manager in Indianapolis or New York. So historically speaking, yeah, if we can be above 45, we can hit 50% because we do so many single families, which are usually spots for people to stop before they buy a home. So it's like apartment, I want to buy a home for a year, get my whatever income up, credit better, and then I'm buying a home. So that's kind of what our renewal rate was for years, was sub 50%. And now we're seeing, we've had months close to 70, maybe even above 70%.
We've had 80% months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the takeaway, right? This it really shines light on what we're experiencing, is that it's a good news, bad news thing. If you have people in your property, there's a very high chance it's going to get renewed. But if you're trying to lease, there's going to be some patience involved. It's not like it used to be. So Paul, I'll finish with you. Where's some good opportunity to buy right now? Where are we, not necessarily you, but where is our brokerage seeing opportunity and getting stuff under contract?
Indianapolis is such a big area. So, you could go almost anywhere. I've been looking a lot. Like when I say south side, I don't mean like south of, like way south. I'm talking like south of like I-70, Interstate 70. You kind of, once you get up north, Fishers, all those areas, it gets a little pricey. So kind of south of that I-70, your townships, Franklin Township, Perry Township, parts of Lawrence, all across the board. Again, in those suburban neighborhoods where I'm starting to see a lot more traction. And then you can get into your little pockets like Irvington and Beech Grove and those little areas. They tend to do pretty well as well. So that's kind of where I've been most of my time. Most of the properties I'm getting sent to me from other investors are kind of on the south side of town.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I appreciate all the data and then the updates and the real world experiences you guys are seeing. I think it's very helpful for people that are interested in, or maybe are investing in Central Indiana. Market overall seems okay, right? I mean, I think the housing market is better. I think we're seeing that evidence. Leasing, I think when we do this second quarter review, I hope that we're going to have some really good numbers to report. Because the reality is, and we've talked about this in our leadership meeting this week, Kelsay, is that we have more inventory than we're used to having in April of any year. So now we're going to have more people interested in homes. This is a time of year, like you mentioned, where more people will become interested in homes. So I'm really excited about what we can do in this next quarter, this current quarter, because I think we're going to see some good results. So I think there's reason for optimism there. So,
yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We hope everyone has picked up some information that will help them in their investing. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another podcast. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and please stay invested in your investment.